how does everybody else feel about backwards compatibility? Is it important to you? Because for me, if I'm going to buy a PS5 or Xbox Series X, if I'm going to buy either of those consoles later this year, I expect them and am hoping that they'll be fully backwards compatible. By fully compatible, I mean that they will be able to play any and all discs from previous generations, region free, and not just select titles. If you look at the Xbox One
I'll
and
never
their
buy another
version,
console, PC gamer, albeit retro.
okay, nothing wrong with that. I can definitely respect that, and I understand why someone would want to stick with PC. Um, to me, the PS4 was a huge letdown. Zero backwards compatibility. Not happy at all with the way they handled that. At least Xbox One tried to add some backwards compatibility for their console. At least they tried to be consumer friendly. Um, but like I said, PS5 is going to have to redeem themselves if they want my money. They're going to have to make the PS5 fully backwards compatible. I was not happy at all with the PS4. Um, like I was saying, my top 10 reasons why I believe backwards compatibility is important for the next gen consoles. Number one, the old consoles break down over time. They do not last nearly as long as the current gen. Um, there were a lot of serious issues with previous consoles, such as the PS3, the 360. Disk drives break, poor quality, thermal paste, overheating. Just a pain in the ass to fix or replace these older consoles. Number two, the older consoles were not made for the current gen TVs, did not have HDMI outputs. Also, having an older CRT or tube television is pretty hard to come by nowadays. You can't just walk into a retail store and buy one. Um, Even though a lot of the older consoles, the games are going to look better on a CRT because that's what they were made to be played on. These older TVs take up a lot of space. They're heavy as shit. Um, just simply not made for streaming either. So if you're a streamer and you want to play on an older console, you're going to have to buy some type of Retron, or like the upcoming Polymega is going to be convenient for people that like to play on original hardware, but it's also going to make you spend a hell of a lot of money to buy these specialty consoles and HDMI adapters just to stream, on an older console. There is the option of using an emulator to stream the older games, which is what I prefer to do. It's just simply a lot easier than hooking up the older console and having all these different uh, things that you have to use to stream. So that would be number two. Number three, simply put, we already paid for the games that we own. We should not have to buy these games again. Um, Remastered games were a popular thing in past generations, especially the PS3 and the PS4. There are a lot of games that had been remastered and brought to the newer consoles. Like like I said, we had to buy those once again. It's basically the same game. It's not a remake, it's a remaster. Now, with the upcoming next generation of consoles, I believe personally that remakes are going to be the new cash cow, and that remasters are going to be a thing of the past. So that's a good thing. And that's another reason why I think backwards compatibility could be a real thing, because remasters are going to be a thing of the past with all these, remakes coming out. You got Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, uh, Demon Souls remake is a huge rumored game that's going to be coming out. But that would be number three. Number four, me personally, I prefer physical media over digital games. Um, whether it be movies, games, whatever, collector's editions. As you can probably see behind me, I love physical media, physical games. I've been collecting for years. I've got huge libraries of every system. Um, and I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of people out there who are old school like myself and prefer physical media. I like to be able to hold a game in my hand, and um, if you buy a game, a physical game, and let's say you don't like that game, you can sell it, and you can at least get part of what you paid for it. So that's another plus to physical media. Now, proof of what I'm trying to say here is companies like Limited Run Games or Strictly Limited. These companies exist because there's people out here like me who like to collect physical games and collector's editions. Now, those companies would not exist if people were not still collecting. Now, someone might argue that discs can get scratched or damaged. Now, I guess that's true if you're a kid and you don't take care of your fucking games. Keep the damn games in the case like they were intended to be, and there's no problems with that. Someone could also argue that digital is more convenient. I would have to disagree, but let's say that you own a bunch of digital games on a certain console, and obviously those games are going to be linked to your account. Now, what happens if you lose your account? What if you get hacked? What if you forget your password? What if all those games, digital games that are on your console, what if the console breaks down or gets stolen? Um, what if the digital only game is no longer available for purchase? Just look at Nintendo, for example, with the Wii U, and the WiiWare games that were all on WiiWare. Those games are no longer available to buy at all. The only way you can play those games is through emulation. Contra Rebirth, Castlevania Rebirth, two great games. That's just two examples that were on WiiWare. You can't get those anymore. So that concludes my point for number four, physical over digital. Number five, streaming in general is just not the same quality as playing on a console. Um, this is not only true for gaming, but for movies and TV shows in general. Um, the best example I can give would be, let me see. Let's say you're streaming a movie on a streaming device. Now, I have compared the two in detail. Um, I've had cable, I've had satellite, I've watched Blu-rays, and streaming is no comparison. It's night and day compared to cable, satellite, Blu-ray movies. Um, it's just a huge world of difference if you compare the two. And the same goes for gaming. And not only is the quality less with streaming, but your internet has to be pretty much perfect in order to stream games without any lag. Okay, so moving on to number six, paywalls. In my opinion, paywalls are simply bullshit. We should not have to pay for services like PlayStation Now to have access to older games. Like I was saying earlier, we should not have to pay for something we already own. Um, One thing that worries me about the upcoming consoles, if they are going to be backwards compatible, is a company like Sony going to make us go through a paywall just to have access to that backwards compatibility feature? Um, Look at the PS3 FAT for an example. You could simply pop in a disc and play three different generations of discs on your PS3 FAT. Um, will we be able to do it like that? We'll be able to just, pop in a PS4, PS3, PS2, PS1 disc and it just plays? That is what I'm hoping for. But we will see. Okay, number seven. Now, consoles in general are meant to play games. They are not meant to stream them. Now, what I mean by that, you have devices that are dedicated to streaming. Smart TVs, media devices, Google Stadia, another example. These are devices that are meant for streaming. Consoles, on the other hand, are meant for just simply playing a game, meaning that you do not have to be connected to the internet. Um, Now, if you want to do multiplayer, online multiplayer or whatnot, yes, you obviously have to be connected to the internet. But I'm just talking about, in general, single player games, for example. This is what consoles were made for. And I believe, in recent generations, they're trying to get away from that and kind of force you to pay for services like, um, PlayStation Plus, for an example. Obviously, you have to pay a yearly fee if you want to play games online, and other services like Xbox Live. These are the ways that they get you with these newer consoles. Okay, number eight, convenience. Now, this is a huge, huge reason why I think backwards compatibility is super important for the next generation. Um, if you're like myself and you not only collect games, but you collect consoles, naturally your entertainment center is going to be loaded with wires and games and connections. I've got several HDMI switchers because my TV does not have enough inputs. Now, if you're like me, you've got several Sony consoles, you've got several Microsoft consoles, Nintendo consoles, several PCs. I mean, there aren't enough inputs for all the different devices that I have. So if you're like me and you collect consoles, then you're in a world of hurt right now. And that is a reason why I'm kind of going on a rant right now because, you know, I'm not happy that I have to have all this shit hooked up to my TV. It's very inconvenient. Having multiple consoles hooked up to your TV is not only inconvenient, but it is space hogging, input hogging, power hogging, plug hogging, just a fucking cord nightmare, pain in the ass. Um, like I was saying, especially when you've got multiple consoles from a single company like Sony or Microsoft. Just looking over at mine right now, I've got PS4, PS3, and PS2 because I did have a PS3 Fat, but it broke. So now I've got a regular PS3 that doesn't play, backwards compatible games. So I have to have three different Sony consoles, to play four generations of Sony games. Um, Same thing with Microsoft. You've got to have a Xbox One, a 360, and a original Xbox all hooked up if you want to play all the games. Because even though the Xbox One is backwards compatible to an extent, it only plays select games. So if you've got games that aren't backwards compatible, then you're screwed, and you still have to have your 360 or your OG Xbox hooked up. Um, I was gonna say Nintendo, but Nintendo gets a pass on the backwards compatibility. They have so many different formats, different types of cartridges. Even the GameCube had a mini disc. Um, Now you've got the Switch, which is on like an SD type of card. The games. The Wii U, however, was backwards compatible with the Wii, so that is one plus to having a Wii U. But yeah, like I was saying, convenience is a huge factor. Um, Number nine, moving on to number nine, there were less features on the old consoles. Now, what I mean by that, um, one thing would be wireless controllers did not exist. So if you want to play an older console, you're going to have to play on a wired controller. Um, if you are like me and you like to make use of the newer controller features like the back paddles, the back buttons, the programmable buttons on the back, those did not exist on the older consoles. The older consoles did not have online multiplayer, and if they did, like the PS2, for example, with SOCOM, those servers are gone, long gone, and you can no longer play online on the older consoles, even if it did exist. Another feature that was not on older consoles, trophies. If you like hunting trophies, you're out of luck. Um, Memory cards was a big thing back in the day. The older consoles, such as the PS1, PS2, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, they all had memory cards, and if you lose that memory card or the card gets corrupted, you're screwed. Not only that, but those memory cards did not hold very much information to begin with. So that brings me to the final point. Number 10, upscaling. The new upcoming generation of consoles are mainly the PS5 with the rumored backwards compatibility. Um, it's rumored that there's going to be a remastering engine and that the PS5 is going to be able to spoof clock speeds, which will allow it to almost be, I guess you could say, faked into believing that it's playing on an original console. And these backwards compatible games are supposedly going to have faster load times and enhancement features that will give it the impression of being like a remastered version of whatever game you pop in. So that's another thing with the upscaling. So yeah, that is my top 10 reasons why I believe backwards compatibility is going to be huge going forward with the next gen consoles. But yeah, um, if you're a PC gamer, more power to you. Um, Growing up, I never had PCs, so I was always a console gamer. That's just what I grew up on. Um, so naturally, I always loved playing on consoles. That's just what I prefer. Um, but I just wanted to kind of give a rundown of why I think backwards compatibility is important, at least to me. I know there's a lot of people that prefer digital. You know, if you do, that's fine. But being old school or just being plain old, I prefer physical media and am hoping that the next gen consoles will be backwards compatible because it's going to, save a lot of space for my entertainment center. That is probably the number one reason. Just being able to have either one Sony console or one Microsoft console hooked up to my TV, only one each, instead of three or four, that's going to be a huge space saver. Not only that, but um, if the new consoles are backwards compatible, you'll be able to stream the older games with so much more ease. Like I was saying, it's a pain in the ass if you want to stream an older game. You've got to pretty much buy um, some type of HDMI adapter or uh, completely separate console like a Retron or the upcoming Polymega, for example, is going to be able to do shit like that. If you want to play on, original hardware, you're shit out of luck. So you're better off, you know, using an emulator, which is kind of what I've been doing for the older games recently. If I want to stream a game, I just use an emulator. But yeah, all right, later, everybody.